The massive space station floated in the darkness, like a jewel among the stars. Concordia Prime had seen countless diplomatic meetings over the centuries, but today felt different. Ambassador Taesung walked through the gleaming corridors, his footsteps echoing against the polished floors. Beside him, Haewon carried a data tablet filled with humanity's achievements. They had practiced their presentation for months. The council chamber was enormous. 12 seats arranged in a circle, each one occupied by a representative from the galaxy's most powerful species. The Vrelians looked like giant insects with crystalline armor. The Tarokians resembled walking trees with dozens of eye stalks. The silicoids barely had physical forms at all, just clouds of glowing particles held together by energy fields. Every species here had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Da Taesung stepped into the center of the circle. His throat felt dry, but he began to speak anyway. Honored council members, I come before you representing the people of Earth. We have achieved faster-than-light travel. We have colonized 3 planets in our system. We have built stations around our sun. We ask for membership in the United Galactic Coalition. The Vrelian Chancellor clicked his mandibles together, making a sound like breaking glass. He didn't even look at Taesung when he spoke. Your species achieved FTL travel 30 years ago. Many species here achieved it 3,000 years ago. What can you possibly offer this council? Haewon stepped forward, activating her tablet. Holographic displays appeared around the chamber, showing Earth cities, space stations, and technological marvels. We have advanced artificial intelligence. Our quantum computers can process information at speeds that rival organic minds. We have mastered genetic engineering and can cure diseases that once killed millions. We have... A Tarokian representative interrupted with a sound like rustling leaves. These technologies are primitive. Our children learn such things in basic education. You are showing us toys and calling them achievements. Taesung felt his face grow hot with anger, but he kept his voice steady. We may be young, but we learn quickly. We adapt. You are primates who discovered fire yesterday in galactic terms, the Vrelian Chancellor said. You have no exotic technologies, no psionic abilities, no biological advantages for deep space travel. You are unremarkable in every way. The vote began. One by one, each council member rejected Earth's application. The final tally was 12-0. Complete rejection. The silicoid representative, whose voice sounded like wind chimes, delivered the final judgment. Humanity may reapply in 500 years. Perhaps by then, you will have matured as a species. As Taesung and Haewon left the chamber, they passed the observation deck. Through the massive windows, they could see the military fleets of the Council powers. Vrelian dreadnoughts stretched for kilometers, their weapons bristling from every surface. Tarokian bioships pulsed with living energy, grown rather than built. Silicoid vessels shimmered like ghosts, barely visible against the stars. Humanity's ship, the Dawn's Promise, looked like a toy in comparison. A single diplomatic vessel, barely 200 meters long, powered by engines that the Council considered ancient technology. The journey back to Earth took 2 weeks. During that time, Taesung received the official rejection document. He read through pages of diplomatic language until he found the real insult buried in the appendix. Earth had been classified as a Class F developmental species with minimal strategic value. They would not receive future invitations to any galactic summits. When they arrived at Earth, Taesung went straight to see Dongmin, the director of the Global Space Initiative. Dongmin was an old friend who had fought in the resource wars before humanity had united under a single government. His office was simple, decorated only with pictures of Earth taken from space. They dismissed us completely, Taesung said, slumping into a chair. They looked at everything we've built and called it worthless. Dong Min was quiet for a long moment. He stood at the window, looking down at Earth spinning slowly below. Did you see their fleets? Yes, we couldn't match even one of their dreadnoughts. No, Dong Min agreed. Not now. Maybe not in 100 years. He turned away from the window, and Tae-sung saw something fierce in his old friend's eyes. But here's what I've been thinking. They gave us a gift today. A gift? They humiliated us. They showed us exactly what they are. Arrogant, comfortable. They've been on top for so long that they've forgotten what it means to struggle. They've forgotten what it means to adapt. Dong Min sat down behind his desk. They think we're nothing. Good. Let them think that. While they hold their summits and make their grand speeches, we'll be working. The next day, Dong Min called an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership. Representatives from every nation gathered in the Assembly Hall in Geneva. The room buzzed with angry voices. The rejection had been broadcast across Earth. People felt insulted. Some called for military buildup. Others wanted to try again, to prove humanity's worth. Dong Min waited for silence, then spoke in a voice that carried through the hall. The Council has shown us who they are. Ancient species who believe age equals superiority. They've invited us to reapply in 500 years, as if we're children who need to grow up. He paused. I propose we do something different. I propose we ignore them completely. The hall erupted in confused voices. Ignore the Council? Wasn't the whole point to join them? We don't need their approval, Dong Min continued. We don't need their councils or their summits. For the next century, maybe longer, we turn inward. We build, we learn. We take every technology they dismissed as primitive, and we perfect it. We find our own path. Hey, one stood up. They have thousands of years of advancement on us. How can we possibly catch up? We think differently, Dong Min said. They specialize. Vrelians focus on weapons. Taurokians focus on biology. Silicoids focus on energy manipulation. But we're generalists. We synthesize. We combine. We take ideas from everywhere and merge them into something new. That's always been humanity's strength. The debate lasted for hours. Some argued that isolating Earth would make them vulnerable. Others worried about missing opportunities for trade and knowledge sharing. But slowly, a consensus formed. Earth had tried to join the galactic community and been rejected. Now they would forge their own path. The vote was unanimous. Earth would ignore every future galactic summit. All invitations would go unanswered. All communication would be minimal. As far as the galaxy was concerned, humanity would simply fade into the background. That night, Tae-sung stood on the roof of the assembly building, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was probably celebrating another successful summit. They had put the upstart humans in their place. They had no idea what they had just started. 50 years passed like water through fingers. The galaxy moved forward with its endless politics and power struggles. The Vrelian Empire conquered 17 minor species, adding their territories to an already vast domain. The Taurokian Federation brokered peace treaties and trade agreements. The Silicoid Collective explored the mysterious regions near the galactic core, seeking ancient secrets. The Council held its regular summits at Concordia Prime, discussing matters of great importance. Nobody talked about Earth anymore. On the Moon, in a small monitoring station built into a crater wall, Yuna watched the galactic news feeds. She was old now, her hair gray, her movements slow. She had served as a junior diplomat under Tae-sung decades ago. Now she spent her days tracking the endless stream of information that flowed through the galaxy. Wars broke out and ended. Alliances formed and collapsed. New technologies were announced with great fanfare. Art, music, and literature from 1,000 worlds circulated through the galactic networks. All of it happened without any input from humanity. Sometimes, invitations still arrived from the Council. Minor trade conferences, cultural exchange programs, scientific symposiums. Every single invitation went unanswered. Earth's silence had become absolute. Some species wondered if humanity had gone extinct. Others assumed they had simply given up on joining galactic civilization. Nobody suspected the truth. Deep beneath the surface of Titan, Saturn's largest moon, something massive was taking shape. The moon's thick atmosphere and methane seas provided perfect cover from any curious observers. Kite, director of covert operations, stood in a control room overlooking the construction facility. The room's windows looked out into the methane ocean, where massive shapes moved in the murky liquid. How many now? Kite asked. Su-jin, the lead engineer, checked her displays. 43 complete. Another 12 in final assembly. We're ahead of schedule. The facility had been built in secret over 20 years. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers beneath Titan seas, a network of construction bays, material processors, and automated factories. Millions of robots worked continuously, building something the galaxy had never seen before. Ships, but not like any ships. The Council species used Su-jin brought up a schematic on the main display. The vessel looked sleek and deadly, about the size of a Vrelian destroyer, but with a completely different design philosophy. We've integrated 37 different technologies, Su-jin explained. Vrelian shield generators, improved with Terrokian biological materials. Silicoid energy systems merged with our quantum processors. Weapons that combine kinetic and directed energy in ways nobody else has tried. Each system talks to every other system through AI coordination. Kite studied the schematic. And they still don't know we're building these? We've been very careful. Our stealth probes throughout Council space send back technical data. We learn everything about their ships, their weapons, their tactics. But we make sure the information flow only goes one way. Su-jin smiled. They're too arrogant to watch us. Why would they? We're just primitive humans who couldn't even qualify for Council membership. Across the solar system, similar facilities operated in secret. The asteroid belt hid manufacturing centers that processed raw materials. Mars housed training facilities for crews. Venus's crushing atmosphere concealed research stations where scientists pushed the boundaries of known physics. Admiral Mirai commanded the Shadow Fleet from a station orbiting Neptune. She was young for an admiral, only 42, but she had trained her entire adult life for this role. Her office walls displayed tactical scenarios and fleet compositions. She studied them constantly, imagining how humanity's new ships would perform in real combat. The Council species fight like they've always fought, Mirai explained to her senior officers during a strategy session. They rely on overwhelming firepower and superior numbers. Their tactics haven't changed in centuries because they haven't needed to change. They've gotten comfortable. She brought up a recording of a recent battle between Vrelian and Terrokian forces. The ships lumbered into position, firing massive weapons at each other in straightforward exchanges. It was more like a slugging match than sophisticated warfare. We won't fight like that, Mirai continued. Our ships are smaller, faster, and they think as one mind. We'll use coordination as a weapon, speed as a shield. We'll be unpredictable because they've forgotten what unpredictable looks like. Back on Earth, humanity continued its normal life. Cities grew. Technology advanced. People went to work, raised families, watched entertainment, and dreamed about the future. Most had no idea about the massive military buildup happening in the outer solar system. The secret was kept by a small group of leaders who understood the stakes. Young Sik, Director of Strategic Intelligence, maintained the network of stealth probes scattered across Council space. These tiny devices, barely larger than a fist, hid in asteroid fields and debris clouds. They watched everything and transmitted data back to Sol using quantum-entangled communication that was impossible to intercept. Through these probes, humanity learned the galaxy's secrets. They discovered that the Vrelian Empire was more fragile than it appeared, held together by military force and the fear of rebellion. They learned that the Tarokian Federation was riddled with internal politics, different factions constantly maneuvering for advantage. They saw that the Silicoid Collective, despite its advanced technology, struggled with resource limitations. Knowledge was power, and humanity was gathering knowledge constantly. 100 years after Earth's rejection from the Council, the Shadow Fleet numbered 147 ships. Each one was a masterpiece of combined technology, incorporating the best ideas from dozens of species and improved through human innovation. The crews had trained in simulation for years, running thousands of battle scenarios until they could coordinate perfectly. And still, Earth remained silent. No representatives attended galactic summits. No diplomats made speeches at Concordia Prime. No merchants traded with Council species. Humanity had seemingly vanished from galactic affairs. Una, now in her final years, recorded a message before she died. It was played at her memorial service on the moon. "I spent my life watching the galaxy move forward without us," her recorded voice said. "Sometimes I wondered if we made a mistake by isolating ourselves. But now I understand. We weren't hiding. We were preparing. The Council thinks silence means weakness. They're going to learn differently." Her words proved prophetic sooner than anyone expected. The war began with a territorial dispute that had simmered for decades. The Vrelian Empire claimed ancient rights to a region called the Orion Spur, where the Tarokian Federation had established colonies. Negotiations failed. Threats were exchanged. Finally, the Vrelian High Command launched a massive invasion. The first battle destroyed 3 Tarokian colony worlds. Billions died in the initial assault. The Federation rallied its forces and struck back, hitting Vrelian supply lines and military stations. Within months, the conflict had spread across dozens of star systems. The Galactic Council held emergency sessions on Concordia Prime. The Silicoid Collective attempted to mediate, but both sides were too angry to negotiate. Smaller species scrambled to choose sides or declare neutrality, hoping to survive the conflict. Trade routes collapsed. Refugee ships fled war zones by the thousands. The galactic economy shuddered and threatened to collapse. On Earth, young Seek watched the situation develop with growing concern. His intelligence network provided detailed reports on the war's progress. The fighting was spreading faster than anyone had predicted, expanding like wildfire through dry grass. At current rates, the war will reach our colonized systems within 20 years, Young Sik reported to the Global Security Council. Both sides are becoming desperate. Desperate powers do unpredictable things. President Yunbai studied the tactical displays showing the war's spread. She was the first president born after Earth's rejection from the Council. To her, the galactic powers weren't impressive civilizations. They were just old empires fighting over territory. "What are our options?" she asked. "We continue building," Admiral Mireille replied. "The Shadow Fleet now has 147 ships operational. We can reach 800 within 18 months if we push production to maximum." "That's still nothing compared to their numbers," someone pointed out. "The Vrelians alone have thousands of warships." "Our ships are different," Mireille said firmly. "Better coordinated, more advanced. But you're right that we need more time." That was when the message arrived from Concordia Prime. The Council had finally remembered Earth's existence. The message was brief and blunt. They requested humanity's presence at an emergency summit. They needed Earth's star systems as buffer zones between the warring powers. In exchange for yielding territorial control, to Council peacekeeping forces. Earth would receive temporary protectorate status. The phrasing was diplomatic, but the meaning was clear. Submit to our authority or be crushed when the war reaches your borders. The Global Security Council met in emergency session. The mood in the room was tense, but not panicked. They had prepared for this possibility. 150 years, Yunbai said quietly. They ignored us for 150 years. Now, they expect us to hand over control of our own systems because it's convenient for them. We could respond, suggested one advisor. Try to negotiate better terms. Negotiation shows weakness, Young Sik countered. They'll see it as an opening to make more demands. We'll end up as a vassal state, providing resources and territory, while having no voice in our own fate. Mi Ray leaned forward. Or we could reveal the Shadow Fleet. Show them we're not the helpless primitives they remember. 147 ships against thousands? Yunbai shook her head. They'll see us as a threat and combine forces to eliminate us before returning to their own war. The debate continued for hours. Finally, a consensus emerged. Earth would do what it had done for 150 years. Nothing. No response was sent to Concordia. Prime. The Council's demand went unanswered, just like all their previous invitations. Earth remained silent. But beneath that silence, everything accelerated. On Titan, Haiyan Wu pushed the shipyards to maximum capacity. The construction bays worked around the clock. New ships emerged from the methane seas every week, their hulls gleaming with adaptive camouflage that made them nearly invisible to sensors. The AI systems that managed construction were pushed to their limits. Material processors ran hot, converting raw resources into advanced components. Assembly robots worked in perfect synchronization, guided by quantum computers that could track millions of variables simultaneously. We can reach 800 ships in 18 months, Haiyan Wu reported, but I recommend we aim for 1,000. It's a symbolic number. Humans think in thousands. So do most galactic species. The goal was set, 1,000 ships. The Shadow Fleet would either be large enough to matter, or it would be meaningless. Meanwhile, the war accelerated beyond anyone's predictions. The Battle of Kepler 442 saw the Vrelian fleet crush a major Tarokian defensive position. 50,000 ships clashed in a battle that lasted 3 days. Entire planets were reduced to rubble by orbital bombardment. The death toll reached into the trillions. The Council Summit dissolved in chaos. Species that had maintained neutrality suddenly chose sides, fearing they would be next if they didn't align with a stronger power. 3 minor civilizations were completely obliterated, caught between the warring giants. Their homeworlds burned, their people scattered as refugees, or simply erased from existence. Yuna's successor at the monitoring station sent increasingly urgent reports to Earth. The war was no longer expanding in a predictable pattern. Battle lines shifted daily. Fleets moved erratically, chasing enemies or fleeing superior forces. Several major engagements had occurred in supposedly neutral space. Then came the day that Earth's long silence would finally end. A Vrelian battle group, pursuing damaged Tarokian vessels, entered the Sol system. Their sensors detected the human colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan. They noticed the orbital stations and the mining operations in the asteroid belt. The Vrelian commander broadcast a message on all frequencies. Humanity had 24 hours to evacuate Earth and all colonies. The Sol system would become a Vrelian military staging area. Resistance would not be tolerated. The message ended with a simple warning: comply or be eliminated. Sang-Wu, commander of Earth's planetary defense, began implementing Protocol Exodus. Evacuation transports started loading civilians from Earth's major cities. Ships departed from Mars and the orbital stations. To any observer, it looked like humanity was preparing to flee their own home system. The Vrelian commander watched the evacuations with satisfaction. Humans were as weak as the old reports suggested. They would run rather than fight. The Sol system would make an excellent forward base. He had no idea what was rising from beneath. Titan's methane-seized Admiral Mirai stood on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn, humanity's flagship. Around her, 1,034 ships emerged from their hiding places. They rose from Titan's seas, detached from asteroids, where they had waited in powered-down silence, and decloaked from positions throughout the outer solar system. The Shadow Fleet assembled in formation, their adaptive camouflage still active, making them appear as nothing more than sensor ghosts. Mirai looked at the tactical display showing the Vrelian battle group near Earth. 47 ships, each one larger than any human vessel. All ships report ready, her tactical officer announced. Mirai took a deep breath. Humanity was about to announce itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. Deactivate camouflage, she ordered. Let them see us. Then show them what we've built. The Vrelian commander stared at his sensors in confusion. A moment ago, the display had been clear except for the fleeing human evacuation ships. Now it showed over 1,000 new contacts appearing throughout the solar system. His first thought was that the sensors were malfunctioning. Verify those readings, he ordered his tactical officer. Verified, Commander. 1,034 vessels, various sizes. They're arranging in battle formation. The officer's voice held uncertainty. They're human ships. The commander laughed, a harsh clicking sound. Impossible. The humans barely have a space fleet. These must be decoys or civilian vessels trying to look threatening. He opened a general broadcast channel. Attention, human ships. Stand down immediately. Your evacuation may continue, but any hostile action will result in the destruction of your homeworld. Admiral Mirai received the message on the bridge of the Defiant Dawn. Around her, the crew worked quietly at their stations. The ship's AI systems hummed, coordinating with 1,000 other vessels in the fleet. Every ship was connected through quantum-entangled communication, allowing them to function as a single entity. Should we respond? Her communications officer asked. No, Mirai said calmly. Let our weapons do the talking. Jinho, you have tactical command. Execute attack pattern, Delta 7. Commander Jinho, seated at the tactical station, felt his pulse quicken. They had practiced this pattern thousands of times in simulation. Now it was real. All ships execute Delta 7 on my mark. He watched as the fleet moved into position with perfect precision. Mark. The human fleet split into attack groups that moved faster than anything the Vrelians had seen before. Ships equipped with experimental dimensional drives phased in and out of normal space, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Weapons fire erupted across the battlefield, but not the crude kinetic weapons the Vrelians expected. Singularity cannons fired, creating miniature black holes that consumed energy shields and armor alike. Matter disruption beams tore apart molecular bonds, causing Vrelian ships to simply disintegrate. Swarms of autonomous drone fighters launched from human carriers, each one controlled by AI systems that learned and adapted during combat. The Vrelian commander watched in horror as his battle group fell apart. His shields, which should have held against any known weapons, collapsed under sustained fire that constantly changed frequency and modulation. His weapons couldn't lock onto human ships that moved in impossible patterns, coordinating perfectly without any detectable communication lag. All ships. Concentrate fire on sector. His orders were cut off as 3 human vessels appeared directly above his flagship, having phased through space itself. Their weapons fired simultaneously, overwhelming his defenses. The battle lasted 47 minutes. When it ended, the entire Vrelian battle group was destroyed. Not a single human ship had been lost, though several showed minor damage. Throughout the galaxy, every species with sensor arrays pointed toward Sol System watched in stunned silence. The humans, the Class F developmental species that had been dismissed 150 years ago, had just annihilated a Vrelian naval force without suffering any casualties. On Concordia Prime, the Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The chamber was in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding explanations. How did they build such a fleet? The Tarokian representative demanded. Our intelligence showed them as having minimal military capability. We haven't monitored them in decades, the Silicoid representative admitted. They were classified as irrelevant. The Vrelian Chancellor's voice cut through the chaos. This changes nothing. They destroyed one battle group. The Empire has thousands of ships. We will crush them and make an example. His words stopped as a new transmission began broadcasting on every council frequency. It was Ambassador Hana, standing in what appeared to be the bridge of a human warship. She was the granddaughter of Taesum, the ambassador who had been rejected so long ago. Members of the Galactic Council, Hana began, her voice steady and clear. For 150 years, Earth remained silent. You believed this silence meant we were weak, irrelevant, primitive. You were wrong. The camera pulled back, showing the bridge's main display. It showed tactical data on the Battle of Sol, complete with analysis of the human fleet's capabilities. While you held your summits and celebrated your ancient civilizations, we were learning. We placed observation probes throughout your territories. We studied your technologies, your tactics, your weaknesses. We took everything you dismissed as primitive and evolved it into something new. The display changed, showing the full Shadow Fleet assembled in formation around Earth. We did not build this fleet for conquest. We built it for survival in a galaxy that saw us as nothing. But now your war threatens our borders. You demanded we submit to your authority for our own protection. Hannah's expression hardened. We decline. She stepped closer to the camera. Earth offers the galaxy a choice. End this war now. Negotiate a real peace, not a temporary ceasefire that will collapse in another century. Reform the Council to include all species as equals, not just the ancient powers. Or, she paused, or we will end the war for you. The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in angry voices. The Vrelian Chancellor was furious, calling for immediate military action against Earth. The Tarokian representative argued for caution, pointing out that the humans had just demonstrated unknown technological capabilities. The Silicoid representative simply observed that the galactic power balance had fundamentally changed in the Vrelian Imperial Palace. High Command gathered to analyze the battle data. What they saw terrified them. The human weapons operated on principles that shouldn't be possible. Their ships moved in ways that violated known physics. Their coordination suggested a level of AI integration that the Vrelians had deemed too dangerous to pursue. They're not just advanced, one admiral admitted. They think differently. They approach warfare from a completely different perspective. The High Commander made a decision that would cost him his position but save his empire. Dispatch the Grand Fleet to Sol System. 8,000 ships. We will overwhelm them with numbers and demonstrate Vrelian supremacy. Admiral Mirai received the intelligence report from Young Seek 12 hours before the Grand Fleet departed Vrelian space. 8,000 ships. It was, by far, the largest military force assembled in recent galactic history. She called her senior commanders, together in the Defiant Dawn's conference room. They're coming with everything they have, she told them. They want to crush us quickly and restore their image as the galaxy's supreme military power. Can we win? Sang-Woo asked directly. Mirai pulled up tactical projections. In a straight fight, no. But we're not going to fight straight. We're going to show them something they've never seen before. She explained her plan. The commanders listened, their expressions shifting from concern to understanding to fierce satisfaction. It was audacious. It was dangerous. It was exactly the kind of unconventional thinking that had built the Shadow Fleet in the first place. The message went out to all human vessels. Prepare for the Battle of Polaris Junction. Humanity would meet the Vrelian Grand Fleet in open space and demonstrate once and for all that old power meant nothing against new ideas. The Polaris Junction was a region of space where several major hyperspace routes intersected. It had been the site of important battles throughout galactic history. Now it would host humanity's greatest test. The Vrelian Grand Fleet arrived first, spreading across millions of kilometers in a display of overwhelming force. 8,000 warships, from massive dreadnoughts to swift destroyers, arranged in traditional battle formations. Their commander, High Admiral Zorvik, had fought in 50 major engagements. He had never lost a battle. He watched as the human fleet approached. Just over 1,000 ships, small by comparison, arranged in strange formations that made no tactical sense by Vrelian standards. "They're fools," Zorvik announced to his bridge crew. "They meet us in open space where we can use our numbers." Open a channel to their commander. I'll give them one chance to surrender. Admiral Mi Ray received the surrender demand and deleted it without responding. She stood on the Defiant Dawn's bridge, watching as her fleet moved into final position. Around her, crew members worked with calm efficiency. They had trained for this moment. "All ships report ready," Jinho announced from Tactical. "Titan protocol is prepared." "Execute," Mireille ordered. The battle began in a way the Vrelians had never experienced. The human fleet didn't charge forward or try to match formations. Instead, it split into dozens of strike groups that moved independently, each one attacking a different section of the Vrelian formation. Human ships phased in and out of normal space, using their dimensional drives to appear inside Vrelian formations and fire at close range before vanishing again. The Vrelians tried to concentrate their fire, but the humans were impossible to pin down. Every time a Vrelian commander thought he had trapped a human ship, it simply disappeared and reappeared somewhere else. The AI-controlled drone swarms proved devastating. Thousands of small fighters launched from human carriers, each one thinking independently but coordinating with all the others. They swarmed Vrelian ships like insects, overwhelming point defense systems through sheer numbers and unpredictability. Zorvok watched his formation fall apart. His ships were individually more powerful than any human vessel, but they couldn't coordinate fast enough to counter the humans' impossible speed and precision. It was like fighting shadows that struck from every direction simultaneously. "All ships, execute defensive pattern Omega," Zorvak ordered. His fleet began to contract, pulling into a tighter formation that presented less surface area for attack. It was a sound tactical decision based on centuries of experience. It was also exactly what Mireille had predicted he would do. "They've taken the bait," Jinho reported. "The Grand Fleet is concentrating in Sector 7. Initiate Titan Protocol," Mireille commanded. Throughout the human fleet, every ship began coordinating its dimensional drive with every other ship. It was incredibly dangerous. Dimensional drives warped space-time to allow faster-than-light travel. Synchronizing 1,000 such drives required quantum-level precision that was nearly impossible to achieve. But humanity had spent years developing the necessary AI systems. Now those systems activated, linking every ship in the fleet through quantum entanglement. The drives fired simultaneously, creating a massive space-time distortion centered on the Vrelian Grand Fleet. Zorvik felt his ship lurch. Sensors went haywire. The stars outside his viewports twisted and distorted. When they stabilized, everything looked wrong. The stars were in different positions. Hyperspace routes that had been clearly marked moments ago were now inaccessible. "Navigation report?" he demanded. "Sir, we're in a pocket dimension. The humans have trapped us in a bubble of isolated space-time." The navigation officer's voice shook. "We can't detect any hyperspace routes. We can't even find the regular space we came from." A grand fleet was trapped. 8,000 ships, isolated from the rest of the galaxy, unable to escape or receive reinforcements. And inside the pocket dimension with them were 1,000 human ships that could still move freely using their synchronized drives. The battle continued for 3 days. The Vrelians fought with desperation and courage, but they were outmatched. Every time they destroyed a human ship, 3 more appeared to take its place. The pocket dimension meant their superior numbers were irrelevant. They couldn't spread out, couldn't maneuver properly, couldn't use the tactics they had perfected over millennia. When it finally ended, the Vrelian Grand Fleet was destroyed. Zorvuk, in his last transmission before his flagship exploded, sent a message to the Vrelian High Command. "The humans don't fight like anyone we've faced. They don't think like us. They've evolved warfare beyond what we understand. I recommend immediate surrender." The news reached Concordia Prime within hours. The Galactic Council gathered in stunned silence as they received the reports. The Vrelian Empire had just lost 80% of its military power in a single battle. The humans had achieved something that should have been impossible. The Vrelian Chancellor, facing pressure from his own government, authorized a surrender. The Tarokian Federation, witnessing what humanity was capable of, immediately proposed an armistice. They offered territorial concessions and requested negotiations. Ambassador Hana returned to Concordia Prime, but this time she wasn't asking for membership. She was dictating terms. The council chamber had changed. The 12 seats that once held the galaxy's most powerful species now seemed less impressive. Hana stood in the center, just as her grandfather Tae Sung had done 150 years ago. But everything was different now. "Earth proposes the Concordia Accords," she began. "First, immediate cessation of all hostilities. Second, dissolution of the current council structure. Third, formation of a new galactic assembly where every species has equal representation, not just the ancient powers." The council members shifted uncomfortably. She was proposing the complete restructuring of galactic civilization. Fourth, humanity will serve as the peacekeeping force for the galaxy. Our fleet will maintain stability and prevent future wars of aggression. Fifth, mandatory technology sharing agreements. Every species will contribute their knowledge to uplift everyone. No more hoarding of technology for political advantage. The Vrelian Chancellor started to object, but Hana cut him off. "You have no position to negotiate. Your empire is broken. Your military is destroyed. You can accept these terms and rebuild as an equal member of the new galactic order, or you can refuse and face the consequences." One by one, the council species accepted. The Silicoid Collective agreed first, seeing the logic in Hana's proposals. The Tarokian Federation followed. Finally, even the humiliated Vrelian Empire signed the accords. They had no other choice. President Yunbai addressed Earth and the galaxy from Unity Station, which had been renamed from Concordia Prime to reflect the new order. She stood before cameras broadcasting to billions of worlds. "For too long, the galaxy has been ruled by those who believed age meant superiority," she said. "Ancient species who forgot that civilization isn't about how long you've existed. It's about what you do with your existence." She gestured to the window behind her, where Earth was visible, a blue sphere hanging in space. "We were dismissed as primitive, unremarkable, irrelevant, but we took that dismissal and turned it into determination. We spent 150 years learning everything we could about the galaxy. We built something new, not by ourselves, but by synthesizing the best ideas from everyone. We proved that cooperation beats conquest, that adaptability beats tradition, that new thinking beats old power. Director Young Sik oversaw the integration of council species into humanity's research programs. Scientists from dozens of worlds began working together, sharing knowledge that had been kept secret for centuries. The breakthroughs came quickly: faster engines, better energy systems, medical advances that could cure diseases affecting multiple species. Admiral Mirai's Shadow Fleet became the galactic peacekeeping force. Human ships, now displaying the insignia of the new Galactic Assembly, patrolled trade routes and responded to emergencies. The Admiral herself trained officers from other species in humanity's tactical approaches. Engineer Su Jin opened the Titan shipyards to allied species. Representatives from the Tarokian Federation and Silicoid Collective walked through the massive construction facilities, learning humanity's approach to synthesis and innovation. They were amazed not just by the technology, but by the philosophy behind it. Humans didn't try to be the best at one thing. They tried to combine everything. Ambassador Hana looked out at the new assembly chamber. It had been expanded to hold representatives from 347 species. Some were ancient powers like the Vrelians and Tarokians, now humbled, but learning to adapt. Others were minor species that had never had a voice before, now equal participants in galactic governance. She thought of her grandfather, Tae-Sum, who had stood in the old council chamber and been rejected. He had lived just long enough to see the Shadow Fleet's first launch. In his final message to her, recorded before his death, he had said, "They see us as nothing. One day, they will see us as everything." That day had arrived. Earth had ignored every galactic summit for 150 years. They had been dismissed, forgotten, considered irrelevant. But they had returned with 1,000 ships and reshaped the entire galaxy. They proved that power didn't come from ancient lineages or exotic abilities. It came from the willingness to learn, to adapt, to synthesize, and to never accept that someone else's definition of you was the truth.